So what I want to do this time is take a trip down memory lane to the vintage card collection of my childhood. I started collecting probably around 1978-ish, and then really seriously in 1980 while I was still in elementary school. And after a while, when I could, I started picking up the occasional older card. That was mainly through what was called a collector's fair, which I grew up in a very rural area in the Midwest, so I didn't have access to a lot of things like this. But they would have, I think, a couple times a year in the quote-unquote nearest city, they would have a collector's fair, and it was antiques and stuff like that. But also there would be usually two or three baseball card dealers. I would also look at collectible coins too. Now all of this would be low dollar stuff. We didn't have tons of money, so you know it wasn't like I could buy the really good stuff. But after a while, I really started focusing more on baseball cards than than pennies and nickels and, and other coins like that. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to start at 1971 and work backwards. And 71 is a little bit arbitrary, but it's because for 72 tops, I think at some point, this may have been after I went off to college in the late 80s, I bought a lot of like 300 commons from 1972, and so I have a lot of 72s. But 71 is the newest that I have a relatively small number of cards. So the first card I'm going to show is actually probably the most valuable card in my old collection. This is 1971 Brooks Robinson. So the 71 Topps is infamous for this black border design, and it suffers very easily from chipping, and which definitely affects the appearance and value of the card. I have no idea what I paid for this when I got it. It was probably a couple bucks, but it turns out to be in really good condition. I think I'm estimating that this could probably grade as a PSA 7, and so if I did that, that makes it about a $100 card graded as 7. And you know, I was really too young to really see Brooks Robinson play, but I just based on his reputation and you know seeing videos of him of his defensive wizardry. So I always liked him as a player. The other 71s here, and I had these in binder pages. I took them out, and then as I was going to put them into penny savers, I decided to do this first. Johnny Bench, of course, Hall of Famer, and a lot of these really good players, the Hall of Fame type players, are going to be in rather poor condition. But there's Bench, and these are just in order of these are nominally in order of the card number. Some of these I just have because I just happened to get them. Sometimes it was specifically because of the player, Johnny Bench, because I knew he was a great player. I picked up the 1970 World Series set. So that was the Orioles beating the Pirates in 5 games. And so I had those. I got those all at once. Danny Cater, Woody Fryman, Joe Rudi. This is nominally an actual signed card by Joe Rudi. It's it's an ink pen signature. I mean, it looks okay. I mean, that's not that I'd ever try to get that one certified as a signature, and this was one that I bought already signed. I mean, it wasn't a. I think this is one of the cards I got when I traded in all of my 1984 or 85 cards for something like $20 worth of credit on vintage cards. Jim Longborg, very good pitcher. This was actually for the year that he won the Cy Young. He won the Cy Young in no, sorry, that's coming up. Sorry, he won the Cy Young in '64. I have his '68 card, but this is his '71 card. And then Tim McCarver. Now we go back to 1970. Hoyt Wilhelm, Hall of Famer, a very underrated pitcher. In terms of earned run average when normalized to league and park effects to take into account, different, the when offense has been high, when offense has been low. Hoyt Wilhelm is one of the 10 best pitchers by that metric, by his normalized earned run average. He was mostly a relief pitcher. He threw over 2,000 innings. He threw as many innings as Sandy Koufax, and he had a career ERA of like 2.5, and did get into the Hall of Fame. Now this one, very poor condition, but 4 Hall of Famers on here for these are the earn. Let's see, these are wins leaders in the National League. So Tom Seaver, Phil Niekro, Fergie Jenkins, and Juan Marichal. Jim Cott, another longtime pitcher. He was still pitching when I really started seriously watching baseball. Wilbur Wood, and then a kind of a random rookie star card, and then a Reds team card. Then we go to 69. Walt Alston, manager of the Dodgers. He was manager of the Dodgers when Koufax was pitching, and so that's probably why I got this. I read Koufax's autobiography, and so I was a fan of Koufax. Steve Hamilton, Dave Leonard, Roger Nelson in very bad shape. Phil Roof, Del Unser, rookie cup card. Bo Belinsky, who he's famous for throwing a no-hitter in his 4th start in the major leagues. Actually, his 4th game pitched in the major leagues. Didn't really turn out great after that, but and then one of the Alou brothers. 68, Al Downing, famous for going on to give up Henry Aaron's 715th home run that broke Babe Ruth's record. That was when Downing was pitching for the Dodgers. Don Drysdale, of course, no need to introduce him. Dave Justy, Joe Pepitone, Tommy Aaron, Hank Aaron's brother, Clay Carroll, Lee Thomas. There's the Jim Lonborg that I mentioned. This is a 68 card, so this covers his 67 season where he won the Cy Young. And also pitched well in the World Series. And Lindy McDaniel. So 67, not a lot here, but one important one. Gene Brabender, Fred Whitfield, so nobody there. But here we've got, I actually have 2 Koufax cards. This one is in really poor shape, but ERA leaders, Koufax, Mike Cuellar, and Juan Marichal, so 2 Hall of Famers. And this is in the 67 set. This is Koufax's only card in the 67 set because he retired after the 66 season, so he doesn't actually have a card that has his 1966 stats on it because he retired after the season, so they didn't put out a card for him in the 67 set. So that's kind of interesting. For 66, Tracy Stallard, Floyd Robinson, Roland Sheldon. For some reason I have a lot of these. I must just like the design or something. Jim Pagliarone, Billy Herman, manager, Don Landrum, Howie Koplitz, Ken Harrelson. Hawk Harrelson became a famous announcer. Dave Wickersham, Bob Bruce, Tony Perez. In another video, I think I refer to him as this is his rookie card. This is not truly his rookie card. This is his rookie cup card, his first solo card. But in the 65 set, he has he's on one of those rookie prospects, future stars cards, whatever they were called then. Don Mossy. I have this card. Well, you just look at it. That's why I have this card. He's very well known for being one of the funniest looking baseball players ever. This was kind of acknowledged by everybody, so I'm not really picking on him. Bill Henry, Jim Landis, Gary Wagner, the Washington Senators. I was always kind of interested in them. The old Senators, they were a lousy team, as they said about Washington, D.C., first in war, first in peace, last in the American League. And so they were never really a very good team back then. Don Pavletich and Fred Newman, so not a lot of star power in there. Now for the 65, Barney Schultz, who was a good I think he's mostly ended up being a relief pitcher. Another Hall of Famer here, Juan Marichal. This card's in not terrible condition, but it's got wax stain and stuff. But Juan Marichal, Hall of Famer. That's certainly why I picked up that card. Moose Skowron and Harvey Keene. I probably at that point knew him best because his Koufax connection. He was the final out of Sandy Koufax's perfect game in 1965. And in fact, there's a very famous call by Vin Scully that I encourage you to look up, calling the game and calling this last out. He struck out Harvey Keene for his perfect game in his 4th straight year with a no-hitter, something that nobody has done since. And that card's in pretty good condition. But Harvey Keene was a good hitter. He was a 300 hitter. Just happened to be pinch hitting and ran into Koufax. The 63, let's see, those were, did I get that right? 65. Oh wait, I do have 164. The 164 is another Koufax. So technically I have 3 cards with Koufax on it. There's Sandy Koufax in the middle of that, and this is the 64 card for the 1963 World Series, which has all the stats in microscopic font there, showing Koufax pitching, you can't read it, 2 games, 18 innings, only gave up 12 hits and 3 runs, 23 strikeouts, and winning 2 games in the series. I think he was the MVP of the series. Okay, so now 63. Bob Uecker, in the Hall of Fame as an announcer. He was famous for his sense of humor, and I kind of knew him because in the 80s he would appear on talk shows, especially on Johnny Carson, and tell funny stories about baseball and stuff. So I kind of knew him more from that. And famously, the back of his card, and Bob even jokes about this, Bob, who can smack a long ball, led the American Association of Catchers in Fielding in 1961. And this is his rookie card, for what it's worth. He was never a great player, but he did play several years. The long ball here, he did hit in 1 year in 58, in 92 games for Boise in the Pioneer League. He hit 21 home runs, so that's something. Bob Hendley. And this one has some sentimental value. This was my stepfather gave me this as a gift. I think it was a birthday present. Carl Yastrzemski's card. This is Yastrzemski's second full year. I don't know whether I think probably is truly a second year card, unless he was had a prospect card before that. Now 62, a really interesting set. In fact, I'm gonna work backwards on here. So we've got Tommy Davis, big part of the Dodgers championship teams during that era. Camilo Pascal, he was a good pitcher. Stu Miller, I think Miller was mostly a relief pitcher. Yeah, he was mostly a relief pitcher. Al Schroll, that was just a random card. And we start getting into some really good ones here. Don Larson, of course, by this time Don Larson wasn't a great pitcher anymore, but I mean, he had a 415 earned run average in 61. But of course, he's best known for pitching the perfect game in the 65 World Series. John Roseboro, the starting catcher for the championship Dodgers teams there in the late 50s and 60s. And then, speaking of Dodgers, here is my one real Sandy Koufax card. So this was a Sandy Koufax solo card. Not in very good shape at all, very rounded corners, but a Koufax card. I suspect this would grade as probably a PSA 1 or so. I don't think they get it better than a 1. But this has Koufax stats for the 61 season, which was the first year he really became an excellent pitcher. And to me, the best 1962 card to have is the Roger Maris. And this one's very off center, but otherwise in pretty good shape. And of course, this is the one that has his 61 home runs on the stat line there. So that's actually pretty cool. Sometimes when they talk about Roger Maris, 61, they show us 1961 card, but of course it's a 62 card that actually shows the stat line for when he broke Babe Ruth's record. For 1961, only a couple here, just Steve Barber, Earl Averill, so nothing too special there. Now another set where I have a fair number of cards. We go back to the let's see, the 1960 set, and this is I like this set. This is a set that there are a few sets from this era in the 50s into the very early 60s that I would consider actually collecting. If I ever try to collect like all of a vintage set like this, it would be something like this. And the reason I say that is because because of the team logos that it has on it, and those logos are kind of cool. And so so this is one of those sets. But anyway, Joe Adcock, very good power hitter for the Braves, teammate of Hank Aaron. Jim Grant, Jack Sanford, another good pitcher, Johnny Logan, Ken McBride, Frank Sullivan, Joe Nuxhall, famous for being the youngest player ever in Major League Baseball. He made an appearance at age 15. Of course, he didn't last and went back to high school and eventually started playing again. Philippe Alou, Ted Abernathy, and then another Don Larson. And again, these kind of cool logos. There's the Kansas City A's. Go back into 59 tops. An interesting design here. Another design with the logos, so this would be another potential set I might try to collect at some point. Ned Garver, no big deal. Sal Magley, good pitcher. Sal the Barber. Rocky Bridges, Milt Pappas, another good pitcher, and Clem Labine also. He was a good pitcher. He was more from the Dodger pitcher from the 50s. I think he pitched into the 60s too, but of course the 60s for the Dodgers was mostly Drysdale and Koufax and Johnny Podres. One here from, let's see, I always forget which year this is. This is 58. The 1958 card, this is another one that has the cool logos on there. Lou Slater, nothing too special there. Now we're getting way back here. Apparently I didn't have any 57s, but we go back to, let's see, 56. So 56 tops, which is a very nice design. I do like the design. The only downside is it doesn't have the logos on it. But here we have Bobby Adams and Gene Baker. Neither one are any kind of stars, but we're getting pretty old here. And these cards have a different feel. There's something about I don't know whether it's just the age or whether it was the cardboard that they used then. But anyway, these are also oversized cards. There for a while, Topps couldn't really settle on exactly how big they want to make their cards. So these are actually bigger than standard cards, so they don't fit in a regular penny sleever. And 55 Topps. This one was a very heavily trimmed card because these were oversized cards too. But they do have logos on them, and then the regular size one, Thornton Kipper, in pretty bad shape. But these are 55. These are very old. And then the other 55 card, I do have one 55 Bowman. And this is a classic television design. It even says color TV on here. So it has the TV screen and then the picture. This is Warren Hacker, kind of a no-name pitcher. But so that's basically my vintage collection, and we'll see what I add to that now that I'm sort of back into collecting. I don't know whether I'm going to get very heavy into vintage collecting, although like I said, I would like to maybe try to work on one of those sets that looks nice. Wouldn't be this set. I mean, this is, interesting. Of course, most of these cards are in kind of rough shape. Of course, I already said the Brooks Robinson's probably the best one of that. A lot of them are in kind of rough shape, but that's what I could afford then. And when you're a kid, you don't pay as much attention to details like condition as you do now. So that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed this little bit of nostalgia here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.